What is ransomware? It is a type of malicious software or malware designed to deny access to a computer system or data until a ransom in Bitcoin is paid. Ransomware attacks are experienced by receiving phishing emails that contain links to sites or accessing corrupt files and documents that can load ransomware into the system. Unsafe websites can also load ransomware. The attacker gets into the user's system files and replaces with an encrypted copy. To get back the original files, the attacker can request for the ransom value in Bitcoin. The ransom value depends upon size and importance of files. If the victim tries to restore the files entering a key to decrypt and the number of incorrect key entries pass a certain threshold, the contents of the files can be deleted. Often, the impact of ransomware requires a trained data specialist for recovery. Can be taken to protect users against the threat of ransomware, updating software and operating systems with the latest patches, never clicking on links or open attachments in unsolicited emails, backing the important data on a regular basis locally and in the cloud. Next is applying the principle of least privilege, meaning preventing users to access restricted resources. Next is to run frequent scheduled security scans. And next is using application whitelisting, where it means providing the applications that should be present and active in the system. And lastly, ensure working of early threat detection systems. A current ransomware attack was reported to shut down the systems of the city of Johannesburg. The attackers called themselves the Shadow Kill Hackers that performed a network breach into their information systems. This led to the city shutting down their website, e-services platform, and the billing system. The ransom value was assigned for 4 Bitcoin until October 28th. Another ransomware attack was directed to the B2B payments provider Billtrust. It is now still recovering from a ransomware attack that began last week. The company said it is in the final stages of bringing all of its systems back online from the backups provided. Billtrust said it was consulting with law enforcement officials and outside security firm to determine the extent of the breach. A report from Bleeping Computer cites an unnamed source saying that the ransomware strain that hit Billtrust was a BitPaymer ransomware, but that information could not be confirmed. Are the steps in a ransomware attack. Infection is after the ransomware is delivered, where the ransomware installs itself on the endpoint and any other network devices it can access. The next is secure key exchange, where the ransomware contacts the command and control server to generate cryptographic keys to be sent across a local system. Specifically, ransomware uses a form of asymmetric public key cryptography. This transitions into encryption, where the ransomware starts encrypting the files on the local machines in the network. Some encryption types involve RSA or other forms such as AES encryption, or a combination of various different encryption methods. The next step is extortion, where the receiver sees the displayed instructions to send the ransom payment. A threat is sent for the destruction of data if the payment is not sent within the time limit. The last step is unlocking, so where organizations pay off the ransom and hope that the files are decrypted, or they remove infected files and systems from the network and restore the data from clean backups. Common human attack vectors in ransomware attacks consist of phishing mails or fake emails that trick people into clicking on a link or opening an attachment that carries a malware payload. The email might be sent to one person or many within an organization. Another form is called SMS phishing, which allows users to navigate to a site or enter personal information through text messages on a device. Examples involve authentication messages or messages that appear from a financial or other service provider. The next form is called phishing, where the cybercriminal sends an attack using voicemail. The user is instructed to call the phone number that is spoofed to appear legitimate. The attacker can get the private information in order to steal or cause identity theft. Next form is through social media, where the attack is transported through a form of media such as music, video, or other active content that will be able to infect the system. The last form involves instant messaging, where instant messaging clients can be hacked by cybercriminals and are used to distribute malware to the victim's contact list. Here is a list of machine attack vectors. And so the first form is the drive-by exploit, which involves opening and downloading information from a website that has malicious software. The next is system vulnerabilities that are detected by cyber criminals to exploit and get into the system to install the ransomware. And then the next form involves malvertising, where it's similar to drive-by but uses ads to get the malware. These ads might be placed on search engines or popular social media sites in order to reach a large audience. A common host for malvertising is an adults-only site. The next form is network propagation, where the file system and the network share can get infected if there is not adequate security in a company. It will continue to propagate until it runs out of accessible systems or finds a security barrier. Next and last is the propagation through shared services. File sharing and syncing services can also be used to propagate ransomware. If automatic syncing is set when files are updated, then malware can be widely propagated more efficiently. Here is the flow diagram of how a ransomware attack is executed. First, the attacker establishes initial access. Next, involves escalating privileges. Next, identifying backup, snapshots, and DR systems. And next is to identify mission-critical systems and data. Next is to identify enterprise messaging systems. Next would be identifying app distribution systems. And lastly, the attacker will deploy the ransomware, leave the network, and wait for the ransom to be paid. Ransomware is more about manipulating vulnerabilities in human psychology than the adversary's technological sophistication, told by James Scott from the Institute for Critical Infrastructure Technology. Phishing emails, malicious email attachments, and visiting compromised websites have been common vehicles of infection. Recent ransomware strains, such as Petya, CryptoLocker, and WannaCry, have incorporated worms to spread themselves across networks, earning the nickname cryptoworms. Weaknesses in Microsoft Server message block and remote desktop protocol have allowed cryptoworms to spread. Many methods of ransomware attacks have been sent out to companies and will continue to advance if security measures are not taken. Here are the steps on how to defeat ransomware. The first step is isolating the infection, basically preventing the infection from spreading by separating all infected computers from each other, shared storage, and the network. Some examples of prevention involve disconnecting the attack from all available networks, including wired and Bluetooth connections. Another instance would be constricting writing and execution permissions within the file system. The next step is to identify the infection. From messages, evidence on the computer, and identification tools, determine which malware strain you are dealing with. A scenario would be taking a snapshot of a system in memory to identify the attack vector, also blocking network access to any identified command and control servers used by ransomware. The next step is to report. Report to the authorities to support and coordinate measures to counterattack. Example includes consulting a lawmaker. Next is determine your options. You have a number of ways to deal with the infection. Determine which approach is best for you. The next is to restore and refresh. Use safe backups and program and software sources to restore your computer or outfit a new platform. Next, and the last step, is the plan to prevent recurrence. Make an assessment of how the infection occurred and what you can do to put measures into place that will prevent it from happening again. And so an example would be setting up spam filters, managing local and external permissions within the system, and within the organization it is important to consider employee training to train employees to deal with certain attack vectors. To recreate a ransomware attack, we have generated a phishing email that appears as legitimate as possible to the receiver. The message reads that this is a reminder that your rent payment is due on November 1st. Instructions to make an online payment are in the attached file. This is from the feigned source ABC Property Management. After reading this message, the receiver will download this attachment, and once it is in their file system, they can open it up, and the ransomware attack is displayed. The message reads, "Your files are encrypted. Send 10 bitcoins to this particular location to get your files back." And so now we can see that the previous files that existed on the user system have been replaced with a .enc extension. This will indicate that these files have been encrypted. And so we can now see that the contents of the original file have been replaced with a copy of encrypted text. And what has also been left is an instruction from the hacker. This is basically the extortion phase, and it provides the instructions in the document to pay the ransom to the location to get back the decrypted files. And so once this particular ransom is paid, the hacker will send back a secret key to the receiver that will enable the files to be decrypted, and this is portrayed here.